So, what's your name and occupation?
Stephen Nickerson, and I am a CPA.
Okay. So, first of all, I'm going to ask you, how did you get into your career?
All right. Well, it was kind of a winding road, so I'll tell you that real quickly.
Okay.
So I always wanted to be an accountant because in the high school that I went to, it was an academy, so it was a boarding academy, right? Mm-hmm. And so for all 4 years that I went there, I was working in the business office, mm-hmm. and I was like the head student, because everyone was, because I was good, and the business manager liked me. So I was like over all the students that worked in there and stuff. So people, I knew what I was doing, so the people would know that, and they learned from me. And I used to give, well, I didn't volunteer to do this. They asked me, the other students, to give them study groups, and that happened in college too. But so I would give study groups, and I actually taught accounting classes in high school to my peers. So that shows how much I liked it, and I was into it, and knew it, and because I got good practice working in the business office for that many years. So anyhow, so I always wanted to be an accountant. So, but I didn't have enough money to go to Seventh Avenue College, because that's where you had to go. Because my parents were poor, they didn't have any money for it, so I had to pay my way through it. So I said, why don't I go get a 2-year degree in respiratory, and then I can make a lot more money while I'm going to college and work through college. Mm-hmm. So that's what I did. I went to, in Ohio, I went to a respiratory school, another Seventh Avenue College. And so it's only 2 years. And then I went to, that was in Ohio, and then I moved to Southern California, at Loma Linda University. And I worked there full-time as a respiratory therapist for like 2 years, but I went to school part-time and at Cal Poly Pomona. And then after 2 years of that, I decided I wanted to go to school full-time and work part-time. So I went up to Napa County. There's a Seventh Avenue school up there in the hill. And so I was there. I finished in two years. Of course, I loved it. It was kind of the same thing. I didn't teach classes there, but I did. A lot of people asked me for study groups, which after a while you get kind of sick of it. But anyhow, I didn't mind helping people. It was all right. But I worked, like 30 hours a week plus going to college. So anyhow, so in 2 years I was done there, and so I just always really liked accounting, and I did well at it. And it was kind of like a natural thing for me.
Okay. Well, that's good. So I think that pretty much covers like how'd you get into it, and then how'd you get into the organization through the steps that you got. So I guess the next I'll just ask the follow-up question. What was the biggest challenge you had from transitioning from college into your field?
Well, it was a big challenge. Because at first you don't get paid very well. In public accounting, you don't, because they love to make money off of you. But that's not, and then that's just the truth. That's not, and I don't hold it against the partners, that the CPA firms. But so I remember the first year, it was a challenge of not having enough money to live here in the Bay Area. This is really one big challenge I had in getting into the real world, and so I actually worked weekends in San Francisco doing respiratory therapy. So that was a big challenge with money, of course. And then the other one was just getting to know more of the who you kiss and who you don't, like who you want to kiss up to, in your firm, like who's the person they make sure that they know what you're doing, because you had to go kind of brag yourself to go make sure they knew what you were doing. Like I did this at this client's, or, they did this and they asked me to do that, and I did this extra for them, and, and then they love you when you do that kind of thing. So, but that wasn't me to go, talk about myself and to say, well, great, I did. Mm-hmm. That wasn't me. So that was both of those things were tough.
Right. Okay. That's interesting. So it was like, You just couldn't sell yourself.
No, I'm not that type of person.
Okay, I understand. I mean, right? That's hard.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I haven't worked, so I don't know what that's like, but that's probably pretty difficult, right?
Yeah, especially when you're your boss, and
okay.
they own the firm, and I don't know. I still never found it like to go out and sell myself that way. So.
Right. So, when you got into the industry, what was a typical day like for you?
So I was an early morning person, and so I'd get to the office like at 6:37, and then I would try to leave by 6:30 or 7. So I could leave at that hour. So we had different clients that we were assigned to. That we were like the grunt. First year, 2 years, you're the grunt person. So you're doing all the grunt work, which you need to learn it. To learn how it all works and see how a real business works.
What company was this at?
My first accounting firm was Frank Rimmerman Company.
Okay.
They're in Menlo Park. They used to be in Palo Alto.
Okay, go on.
And so you have different clients. Now, when you start out, one of your biggest things you want to do in accounting is to make sure that you get your audit hours. Because in California, it might be different now, the number of hours. But when I was growing up, you had to get growing up. When I was came out of to work towards my CPA, you had to get 500 hours of audit time. And so, which was, we were a smaller firm. We weren't one of the big four. I didn't want to go to one of the big fours because I thought that was, way too big for me. And it probably wouldn't adjust because I had gone to all these smaller colleges. Mm-hmm. So, it was like, just stay along this way. Right. So we had a couple of different clients that we were assigned to. So then, we would do, you were happy if you got audit work, whenever they needed their audit done. You were really happy to get that. Uh-huh. Especially if you get it done in the first 2 years. Because to get your CPA then, you had to have 500 hours of audit, like I said, and then work 2 years. And there was one other requirement, besides pass the test, of course. And so that's the other thing that you had to think about in your first couple of years, was passing the exam. And so you're working, you're just out of college, you're trying to figure out work, you're working, studying for the exam. We would all get together on Sundays and study for the exam, so that and so the dates. We're talking about the dates, right? So it all depended what needed to be done for the client that day,
right,
or that week, or did we need to? Could we do it in the office, or do we need to go to their office and do it? Like for audits, you're always out at the client's office, mm-hmm. And because you kind of want to watch them. But there's a lot of work that you can do in other work that you can do in the our office. So the second thing that you did was taxes, because tax season, we all work taxes, right? Mm-hmm. Except for the real audit people. So I really enjoyed taxes. I thought I would like audit more. And by the second year, they want you to sort of decide which way you're going to go. Are you going to stay in audit for make that your main area that you want to get the experience in, or do you want to change to tax and work on taxes? So that's at between the second and third year, they really want you to declare which one you want to go to. Uh-huh. So you want to get tax work, and then of course during tax season you're there a lot longer hours. So your day would start earlier and it would end later. On doing taxes, we all did taxes, and I was the one that for some reason got that I was doing partnership taxes, and so everyone brought me their partnership taxes. But so then you kind of have to fight to get the individual taxes. Goes, I'll do that for you. So you can get an individual experience, mm-hmm. and then you want to get corporation experience. So you kind of have to make sure you go around and get that stuff from. It's usually from other people that you grab, because if a manager came and told you to do this one, you didn't get rid of it. You did it.
Right.
So that was the typical day was either doing taxes or audit. in the client's office or in our office, and you stress.
Right.
A lot of stress in that first 2 years.
So, what did you like most about doing that?
Well, surprisingly, like I said, I started to like taxes. So that meant what I did is after I got my 500 hours, I sort of like abandoned doing audits because I had what I needed from them, and then I went into taxes and I became manager. I was a manager in the tax department, and so yeah, I liked taxes. I liked how it was. Every client was different, had a different tax scenario. Every in the law applies to everyone so differently. Individual. It's an individual thing, and so yeah, I started to gravitate towards taxes. And that was my favorite thing. I still did some audit, even if I got into tax. I remember this. I did some audits though, because the manager, one of the senior managers or partner, I can't remember which one it was, liked me on this particular job. So I still did some audits.
So, like, I don't know if this is like linguistically correct, but what part about you allowed you to be very successful with doing taxes? Like, why were you able to succeed in the field of taxes?
Because I didn't feel like you had to, number one, because when you were the client's auditing, you really had to kiss up to the client. And I'm just not that good at that. I never was, and I'm still not that way. So, so taxes was more natural for me. You certainly saw the client. You called them all the time. You dealt with them when they came into the office, but you didn't have to. They were there to see you, and you would give them a product. You give them a product and give them a bill, and and so it's sort of like that. And you really have to do much of anything than just say, "Hey, I want to do your taxes," and let's work together. You didn't say that, but you know what I mean.
Right.
And so that was more natural for me.
So there was less social
Yeah, and it wasn't
stuff.
even the social part because I didn't mind the social part. It was more kissing up to them that I didn't like in the audit. Yeah, the salesman part.
Okay. Huh. So that's why you went into
Taxes,
because it was more cut and dry kind of stuff.
Yeah, well, not cut and dry. I wouldn't say that. It's more cut and dry maybe with the clients. Yeah, but it's what I like to say, every person had a different scenario. I mean, there really isn't two tax returns the same.
Right. So that was fun for many reasons, I can assume, right?
Yeah.
It was a problem solving, and
Yep.
So it was like, how would you approach it? Was it like a challenge or like another key in the wall or kind of thing, or like how was it?
No, it was a challenge every year because it would always be something different.
Right.
I mean, certainly you had last year's file, which is sort of you always reviewed that to make sure you know what they did last year and what kind of you're going to be facing this year. And then you the new challenge that you had to figure it out. You had to research, go into the tax library and research what to do and how to approach it, and then it has to get passed by the manager if that's the right thing to do.
And so, where did you start when you went into taxes? You started in like a managerial position, or like
no, I actually even when I was doing audits during tax time, I was doing taxes. Like January to April. So I was doing taxes every year, just like I was doing audits every year for the first 2 years. And then when I was declared that I wanted to go to taxes, then I was a supervisor at that point.
Oh, okay.
And then I can't remember how many years you were supervisor, maybe 2 years? And then you go, and then if you're good, you get promoted to manager.
Which position was... Well, did you feel more comfortable being a manager versus a supervisor versus a...
No, that's why I left after I was a manager for a while, because they really want you to get out and selling the whole firm now. They want you to sell to get clients in.
Right.
So they wanted you to go to these functions and, and have drink with the client, or these prospective clients. And this just wasn't me.
So it was more of the salesman again.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And then so when you had your I suppose it was like emotional exodus from that. You just don't want to go on from the managerial position, right? What did you do after that?
Right. No, after manager, I left
Uh-huh.
when I was manager for a couple of years. Then one of the senior managers who I worked with on audits, he had left and he was the CEO of a company, Kinetics.
Right.
Kinetics.
Yeah, right.
And he invited me to join him after he was over at the new place where he was there for a year. And then he called me, invited me to join him there to work for him. And there I went and became a tax manager.
Oh, okay. So you were a tax manager first. So how was it different and similar to the previous installation of your job? You know, like was it where you were doing different things, or was it just pretty much the same thing?
Well, it's the same thing, but for just one company. But
Oh,
see,
okay.
when I first went to Kinetics, though, we had a lot of different companies, that you had to do taxes for.
Right.
Like it was all Kinetics, but we had a lot of smaller companies. We had that we would have around the country, and then it started around the world. That had to do taxes for each entity, whether it's a partnership, a corporation, or
And that was something you were familiar with, though, right?
yes,
Corporation taxes.
yeah.
And then, so that was.
I did the executives taxes.
Oh, you did? What was that like?
No, it's fine. I hadn't done David's before, but before that, and I hadn't done the other owner of the company, before that. But so it wasn't too bad. I mean, my experience certainly helped, being at the CPA firm, but
Right.
it wasn't too bad.
Right. So in time frame, how long was the first before you went to Kinetics? How long was that?
I was there probably 6 years.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll and then Kinetics was how long?
10.
10. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then we'll talk about the first. I mean, because we have plenty of time. There's no rush. So going back to the first one. So it was like when did you were with your peers up until your CPA exam? Or was it like you were with your peers up until any point, or like?
Yeah, but we sort of, it was like kind of like like a class. We all kind of started to move together.
Right.
We moved up. If everyone was, unless there was a real, I could say it's loser, that they couldn't move up with the rest of us, and they had to stay being a staff accountant for another year, or they didn't pass the tests after 2 years, and so then they really didn't get the better assignments. So, other than that, it was really we all kind of moved up in it. Like it was 2 years staff, 2 years or 3 years supervisor,
Right.
and then you move up to manager.
And so when did you passed your CPA exam? How many years after starting?
There's two. Within two.
Within 2.
Yeah.
Was that a hard chapter, or was that just another?
God, it really was difficult. And
Really?
I hear it's very different now.
Oh.
But then it was, a lot of they would give you scenarios, and you had to write down what you would do, and both in ethics and business law was a complete one section actually of the exam. So you had to know the law, and yeah. And now the ones that I did the best, the sections when I did, there was 5 sections.
What were the 5?
So there was law, 2 tests in what they called practical accounting. I don't know. It was something like that. Practical accounting, where you just needed to know accounting, and they would give you problems to solve, and what would you do? Again, they give you scenarios. You have to work through the problem. And so there was 2 of those. Was there an ethics one? I think there was like an ethics one, and I can't remember the 5th one was. No, I can remember the 5th one was. But it's different today. So.
Right, but those were the most significant ones. Were the ones you remember?
Oh, there was one completely tax.
Oh, it was
That
all
was the 5th
tax.
one.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that was. Is that the one you did the best on?
No, I did the best on the accounting, really.
Oh, really?
I passed those right away.
Okay.
And then I got, no, I'd say the hardest one was actually the business law.
Really?
Yeah.
Because it was a lot of law.
Law stuff you had to know. It was just,
Right.
and then they give you what kind of situation they were going to give you, and
Right.
law books were like this, and
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You'll get that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So and then that was the first. Would you look like? I don't want to trivialize this, but that was like the first kind of chapter of the, and then you moved on to kinetics.
Yep.
And so kinetics was all the whole time. It was all tax stuff, or like.
Well, for the first. I'd say about 6 years, because there was another person that joined me over there too, and he was an audit guy. So he was he was we came from the same firm and went to work for David, and but he was an audit guy. I was a tax person. So he was I can't remember what his title was, but finance manager or something like that, and. After he left, at about 5 years, maybe 6 years, that we were there. I think it was 5. But anyhow, then I became CFO. So I was both over tax and finance, and a lot of other things.
Was that a big jump for you?
Yeah.
And then what? Well, and what? Talk about. You want to talk about that for a little
Yeah.
bit? Okay.
Yeah. So after the taxes. I stayed, like I said, I did a lot of different taxes, and you had to do a lot of planning too. So you had to get, if you wanted your taxes to end up a certain way, at the end of the year.
Right.
So that was those first 5 years, and then when I became CFO, I was over, and not all of it was right away, but it ended up being like 8 departments. So it was over IT. I was over. I oversaw them. Tax. There was someone there for tax. It was tax manager. All of accounting, all of finance, all of human resources, and they're difficult people to work, but to have worked for. Let's see. So there was that. There was. Oh, I was over all of the administration. So, let's see, what else am I missing? Just finance, accounting, tax, IT. Yeah, I think that might be that. I think there's another one, I'll think of it. But those were the main ones I can remember right now. So, of course I was over international. At that time, we were starting to go international.
Oh, okay.
So I was over the international accounting and the international tax.
Right.
So yeah, it was a big challenge because there were so many people. I had 8 or 10 direct reports, and then they had all kinds of reports. So I had literally one time 350 people under me. So it was quite a few to, you got to keep the managers happy so they keep their people happy.
Right. Right.
Because once the managers get sour, oh my God, and so that's when I was CFO, and then. But then on top of that, I was over purchasing too. David, when we were growing internationally during that period, you had to go over and set up the corporations and the tax. You really had to go to that country. So David wouldn't let anyone else go. He wanted me to do it all.
Oh, okay.
So not only did I have my regular stuff to work, but I was traveling around the world. I was. To set up these entities, to set up the tax part, the accounting part, hire people, the administrative people.
The whole thing. You're doing the whole thing.
Yeah.
Single-handed?
Yeah, me pretty much because no one traveled with me.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. Now when I got back, from setting everything up, I could get other people within the office to do some of the work. So I didn't have to do it all, once I had it set up and we were back at the office. I sort of delegated that.
Right. As you
yeah.
as you usually would at that level, right?
Yeah. But it was it was a big pain to go on those trips because I had so much going on in the office. But in the end, I'm really glad I did because I got to travel quite a bit.
Okay. Oh, that was a nice perk as well.
Yeah.
To travel. Where'd you go?
Well, I went to a couple places in South America, Brazil, and Of course, in Mexico City, we had a big operation in Mexico. So I was down there numerous times. And then France, Italy, we had operations. Israel, I loved going to Israel. If you ever get a chance to go to Israel, you should. Ireland, England. There's another one in Europe. But anyhow, so basically Europe. And none in. I never went to the Far East.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Even though he had an operations guy over there, and he was it didn't work well because that guy was always calling me on how to do stuff, and they were so corrupt over there,
Right.
having to pay all these people off, and I didn't believe him at first.
Oh. Yeah.
Like, no, you're just bullshitting me.
Right.
You're taking the money. I told him,
Yeah. That's a shame.
but maybe he wasn't. So those were the places I traveled.
Okay. And so then you were doing all the work in those various places.
Yeah, and I would only do quick trips because I could had to come back to the office to
Right, on the
meetings,
home
had to
front,
do all kinds of
yeah.
stuff, and so that was one disappointing thing. But I always try to add on a day in one of the cities. Like one time, I remember going to like in 6 days, I went to 8 countries. But at the last country, I think, which was Ireland, I spent a day there for myself.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good.
That's some good times, let me tell you, going
Really?
out.
So that was difficult too as well. It's like moving around a lot. So when was this? I guess is it the CPA exam, or is it which part of this is like the most physically exhausting of this like,
So far, up
so
to him?
far, up
Oh,
to-
yeah, definitely at Kinetics, doing the international work, travel.
Okay.
Yeah. But it was great. I mean, you go out to dinner with a client,
Uh,
and then you go out to some bar with someone. You find someone to go to a bar with, and we just party. And then I had to come back and talk to everyone in the office. So it was. Yeah, I ended up in some precarious places, but anyhow, that's a different story for another time.
Of course. So what's after that, or is that like?
That's when I quit, and then I did my own business.
Do you want to talk about that? Or?
Sure.
Okay.
And basically, what I did the same thing at the accounting firm. I did taxes, and for corporations and for individuals. Tried not to. I didn't work full time, so I didn't want to.
Okay. Yeah. Right.
And so that was kind of fun. A lot of the people, I didn't have to go find. They kind of found me,
Oh, okay.
so I didn't have to go out and sell myself.
That's good. That's good. So, I guess I'll ask another one of these key point questions. What's one of the key skills that you've used in your career? A key skill.
Well, a skill of being knowing. It's hard to say because what I'm thinking, what first comes to my mind is you got to be competent, you got to be practical, and you have to be persistent, and obviously you need to be intelligent.
Right.
So those are the things that I really leaned on. Is what I
Right.
guess what I'm trying to think of. But practical skills exactly. Knowing taxes, and that's a practical skill. So.
Knowing taxes. That was the skill that most helped you.
Yeah, well, yeah, and you never really get to know taxes because, like I said, everyone's different. So you're
Right.
always learning.
Right. Did you enjoy learning all of them?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. And then I guess that segues into knowing what you know now. What advice would you give to a student going into that workforce?
First of all, know accounting well.
Mm-hmm.
So you can just do it on the back of your hand.
Okay.
The basic accounting, know that well. I think it's more advantageous if you want to stay in public accounting to be more of a learn before you even start to sell yourself, like I didn't do, and then just be a competent. Like I said, know your accounting, and with that is just being competent, being smart, being intelligent, and some of those skills you can acquire, and some you can't.
Right.
So I would say that would be the thing that would probably be that kids today wouldn't really. Not a lot of them would come easy for them.
Okay. And this is like kids going into accounting and such.
Yeah.
And so when you were working, what did you like? What thing? Thing is not the right word, but was there any like resource or like I want to use the word like manual, but not manual is not because it's not really a textual thing. Like you mentioned, like study groups was something you did to help. And like I'm sure explaining things to people helped you understand things a little bit better, right?
Yeah,
So,
I
like,
did.
Was there something that you would like rely on as a crutch to kind of improve yourself? I suppose. Does that make sense? Just
Well, in college it was all kinds of studies, all kinds of classes, right?
Uh-huh.
But the stuff I really did study groups on, I wouldn't really do them unless I really knew it well.
Oh, okay.
So, and even ones that I taught, like when I was in high school,
Uh-huh.
I wouldn't do that. Like the professors would ask me to teach and everything. Well, if I didn't know it really well, I didn't want to do it.
Right.
So I didn't want to get up there and be a fool.
Right.
But the thing that I think for me going into tax work was all the different tax resources that we had.
Mm-hmm.
The books and manuals and all these regulations that explains the taxes, and that usually comes from the government, and you have to know those pretty well. So I would say that I would just say the tax resources,
Okay.
and a lot of it was manuals.
A lot of it was manuals.
Yeah.
Hmm.
These big tax books that
Big
we'd
tax
have,
books.
and they'd have to, the support staff would have to, take out pages and put in the new pages when things changed, and they hated it. And
Right. So, I guess is there anything else? I mean, you want to say? I mean, you covered all my firing.
well, like I said, the being really good at accounting is good, and being enough familiar with tax, because you're not going to go in deep detail I don't think you are in college with tax.
With tax, okay.
Yeah, usually it's only a couple classes that you take. So at least knowing the cursory of tax, but I wouldn't say you have to know tax like you really need to know accounting.
Perfect.
All right.
I guess that's that's great.